Welcome to Cross Ice Pass, episode 19. I'm your coach, Steve Mosier. Once again, we've got some really big things happening, as I've been mentioning. Got a big announcement. I'd like to announce our first sponsor partnership with an amazing hockey brand called Hit Club Hockey, who made this hat that I bought when I first heard about them because it's hilarious and awesome. The QR code that's going to be on screen gives you immediate access to their store of endless hats, apparel, jerseys, and customization options. So click on that while listening and get yourself some, or get some after. No matter what, click the link, keep it up, and look through and see what you like, because there's a lot of cool stuff there. This episode is brought to you by Hit Club Hockey. Hit Club Hockey comes from Hockeytown by a group of individuals connected to NCAA, ACHA, ECHL, and the Federal League. They have backgrounds there. They promote hockey excellence by making high-quality, innovative gear for fans, players, and teams. Their products bring the attitude of hockey back from the north, and not from the beaches and sun, but from where we originated. That's just because I mentioned a lot of cool stuff is made. A lot of it is based in California, or in southern climates. More power to them, but these guys are the real deal. They know how to shovel snow, and they're really great guys, and I'm very excited to be working with them. On that note, the next step to talk about is the first annual Cross Ice Pass Classic. It's going to happen the last week of February. My original plan was to have the skate and fundraiser on a Saturday, but a lot of ice is scheduled and the cost is pretty high. The skate will be held at Chelsea Piers Sky Rink for a late skate on Tuesday, February 27th. If anyone wants to come through, bring a couple sodas, take some photos, ham it up with not only myself, but there will be some guests that we've had will be skating. So you'll be able to get to know more about them than what you might have heard in the episode. This will be followed by a fundraising event on March 1st at the Canuck in Manhattan. The Canuck is actually a very cool place if you're a hockey fan. And if you live in New York and haven't already been there, you should check it out. It's very cool. They've got great Canadian food. They have enough TVs to pretty much show any game they can. Be mindful that New York teams are going to get the first TVs and probably the best seats for those TVs. Also remember that the ownership is from Vancouver, so we'll see more Canucks than we will others. But they try to make sure that they can get on Canadian games. When you're there, if you ask the bartender or the manager, they usually can help you out so you can see your team play. They also play PWHL games there, college games. They pretty much play any hockey there. It's also a place to watch football, but hockey's their thing. Definitely check out the coolest thing in any bathroom that you could ever think of. It's such a cool wall of hockey cards while you're washing your hands. It's pretty amazing. So we're doing that at the Canuck. We'll be watching some hockey, raising money for today's guest and his veterans team, the Pittsburgh Warriors, as well as the New York City Gay Hockey Association Scholarship Fund. My goal, and this is something I talk about a lot on this, is making sure hockey's for everyone. I want to raise money to help people that can't afford to play this expensive sport. Yes, I understand there are lots of youth organizations that are doing this, but I want to make sure that everyone at all ages and all creeds, colors, whatever, get to play this sport. So my goal is that if I can get enough money to help four people from playing, I think that's a huge win. The one thing about it that you'll see is that I'm going to put the event link below in the comments, or in the episode info. So you can sign up for the Eventbrite, so I can get an idea on attendance, because I know it's that day. Ever since Facebook overloaded people with events, people don't respond. But there's going to be some great people there. I'm going to have some huge prizes for the raffle. I'm getting really good things, not only from Hit Club Hockey, um, but True Hockey. Um, uh, the Danbury Hat Tricks are sending things. I'm getting stuff from the KC Mavericks. We're getting lessons, goalie lessons, player lessons, all kinds of good stuff is coming. And it's all going to be free for you if you just attend. And of course, pay for your tab and tip your bartenders. I got a new segment announcement that I'm going to start putting together today. Hopefully, the new segment announcement will be at the end of this episode. My usual interview guests are asked about their fondest hockey memory. Well, I'm going to start adding this from in-person interviews at rinks. Thought it'd be a cool, fun thing. I bought a little wireless mic that I can take with me. Currently, I'm going to either in the future it'll be at the front or the end of the episode, depending on how it works. I realize I only have a small number of stories. We're on episode 19, so we're talking 18 stories, and a couple people gave me more than one, but I want to include everybody. As I say, this is an all-inclusive podcast. I'm just the one barking on the microphone, but it's all about everyone else as well. So keep an eye on that for at the end of this episode. Let's talk about Russia. Yes. First, I want to say this has nothing to do with the terrible war in Ukraine. Secondly, I believe that Putin is a terrible leader and should stop the violence and leave the people of Ukraine alone. We know that those aspects of it. But the other night, a Pavel Bure highlight reel showed up on my YouTube feed. Well, because I'm a huge fan, I have a tendency to kind of, as you can see behind me, he kind of pops up from time to time. But he is my favorite player who never wore a wing wheel. This got me thinking of the evolution of shooting and stick handling throughout the years. Ever since Stan Mikita bent his stick on the door, the evolution has kind of moved from there. Real Turcotte, who Pat LaFontaine thinks should be on the hockey Mount Rushmore. Real was born in Quebec, but became a Michigan legend. Played for Michigan State in college. Real was ahead of his time. He knew the value of learning how to feel like the puck was second nature on your stick, how to roll your wrist, to keep your head up, to make better reads, better passes. He was at the forefront of bringing highly developed skills to the sport in America. And now we know, out of all the videos we see and all this other stuff, Pavel Barber and all these guys doing crazy stick handling skills and things. But also seeing Jack Hughes, seeing, Logan Cooley, like, the Owen Tippett goal this last week was unreal. Real was influenced by watching skilled players like Canadian icons Jean Beliveau and Rocket Richard, and puck possession teams like the Anatoly Tarasov coached Red Army teams in the 70s. This has been quoted, why give the puck away, he would say. That's why he liked watching the Russian Five. That was the way the game should be played. In his eyes, control the puck and you control the tempo. Love that. So also note that Pat LaFontaine was a big Guy Lafleur, Beliveau, Yvon Cormier fan, and so was the real GOAT, Mario Lemieux, because the evolution of stick handling and puck possession and patience kind of goes hand in hand with not only what the Russian players are doing, but also what they were doing in Quebec. But it's noted that some of these coaches were watching things that were happening in Russia. When the large influx of Russian players started to defect and come to North America in the late 80s, early 90s, to play in the best league in the world, it shook the league. A game that was built on grit, that would protect the top players on their team. Well, the Russians loved that. If you're going to come at me when I have the puck, then I'll just wait and move by you. If you're that big Neanderthal guy from the 70s, from the Broad Street Bullies, if you're Dave Schultz coming at you, I'll just move and I'll keep moving, and you can't catch me. The one thing I want to mention to my listeners is that it wasn't about the stick handling move. It was about patience. Other than Bobby Orr, Guy Lafleur, we hadn't seen guys go end to end with such precision as Bure, Kovalev, Fedorov, and Mogilny did. When we talk patience, there was no better player than Igor Larionov, who they called the professor. He would play pool. That's how he played hockey. He would be five steps ahead of you. He knew that if you made that pass, that breakout pass up ice, he knew what would happen in the neutral zone or what, because to be quite honest, it is kind of basic thinking. You're always ahead of it if you're playing smart. To add to the crazy stick handling skill, the Russians were 20 years ahead of North America on power skating. It wasn't until the 90s that became a big part of training. And Tarasov was doing that in the late 60s in Russia. Hence guys like the Russian Rocket, Pavel Bure, and Sergei Fedorov came about. And if you ever got to see Fedorov up close, he looked like he wasn't even touching the ice. It was unreal. Like I would almost love to hear him skate by himself on a rink and just hear that. I could probably sleep to that. It would be awesome because it probably just like instead of So that was pretty amazing. Also, because of Russia, also European and Russian D men taught the thinking man's game. Sergei Zubov, Sergei Gonchar, Vladimir Konstantinov, and the OG Slava Fetisov showed that puck possession was not just a scorer's game. So holding onto the puck and waiting for things wasn't so bad for them. They didn't wait forever. They gave them a better view of things from the back end. I'm not going to talk about goaltending because we talked about goaltending before in a former episode. And it took Russian goaltending a bit before it's gotten to where it is now, where we have so many guys in the NHL that are just lights out amazing. The next step after these guys in the 90s, when we got in the early 2000s, was the Wizard, Pavel Datsyuk. Players like Zegras, Hughes, and high-end stick handling players like Patrick Kane all watched what Datsyuk would do. These guys in the early 2000s, these players now that are in their 20s and maybe early 30s, would see what Datsyuk would do, and it was crazy. I still say to this day that he is quite possibly the best takeaway guy to ever play the game. Statistically, I think Datsyuk leads that, but also realistically, he was just so good and so patient. It's been so great to watch the next gen of Russians in Kucherov and probably the most prolific goal scorer ever in Ovi. I want to mention though that I just talked about one of the best skaters ever. Actually, two of the best skaters ever in the Russian Rocket and Pavel Bure and Sergei Fedorov. Probably one of the best defensive skaters ever in Sergei Zubov. And then I talked about the best takeaway guy ever in the game and the most prolific goal scorer in Ovechkin. So for those guys to be so high up in my list, hockey owes a lot of our evolution to the Russians. They were basically like having the Persian and Roman Empire together invade North American hockey and show us what they were doing. So, given this terrible war happening between Russia and Ukraine, You can still, when you have free time, get on YouTube, check out what these guys were doing. The highlight reels are ridiculous. Don Cherry hated them. I literally have a letter on my shelf that Don Cherry told me I was basically crazy for thinking, because he did not like the Russians. So, but he was wrong. And where is he at now? So, because Ron McClain's the best. I already said that. This week, happy, surprising, not surprising, and pretty unusual. Happy. Our episode 16 guest, Ivo Mocek, and the Shenzhen Kunlun Red Star Hockey Club and the Women's Chinese International League are champions. Woo! Huge congrats to Ivo and his team. Yu Bai Wei was awarded the league MVP honors, and goalie Wang Ying Qing is the league's best goalie. I apologize if I hammered those names into the ground. But congratulations on your individual honors, and congratulations on your team honors. And I want to mention something because we're mentioning this stuff with the Oilers now. Oilers are now kind of breaking the mold of this whole undefeated moment, as we've seen the last couple weeks. They won their trophy with 22 games undefeated, which is unreal. So, congratulations, ladies. I know not all of you are live in China, so I'm sure you're probably going to start kind of moving around and back to your respective homes. But congratulations and job well done. Sam Gagner has become the only player in NHL history to be part of two separate 14-game win streaks. Once in 2016-17 with the Blue Jackets, and recently, of course, with the Oilers as they are now in 15 games. They'll be playing later tonight. This is recorded on Saturday. So, the Oilers, 15 games is just ridiculous. I can't even think about it. Congrats to Gary Bettman. I know we all love to boo him, but it's pretty impressive. 31 years as the commissioner, which is the longest serving chief executive in North American sports. That's pretty impressive. That's pretty amazing. We've all had our moments with hating or loving or questioning Gary Bettman. So, but this is a pretty stellar moment for him. February 7th, folks. Mark your calendars. I know next time, before we talk next time, the All-Star game's happening. NHL is going to be quiet. But listen, the week that the NHL is off, there's something on February 7th that everyone should mark their calendars for. Episode 4's guest of this great pod, Ryan Devine, and his KC Mavericks are playing the Fort Wayne Komets, who just acquired Daniel Amsbury. Well, ECHL games can be found on Flow Hockey. I've given Flow Hockey a little bit of a questionable cost issue because it's very expensive. But listen, I might buy it just for 1 month just to see this game. We have in 2023 Ice Wars King in Ryan Devine, Debo, and in 2022 Ice Wars King, Diamond Hands, Daniel Amsbury are going to face off toe to toe for the first time ever, and not in the octagon, but on the ice in a game. This is going to be nuts, guys. Like, this is going to be nuts. If you like hockey fighting, it's going to be crazy, because these guys, I can't wait to see what's going to come out of it. Surprising, Patrick Wall won his first game as the Isles coach, then lost 2. So we'll see what's going to happen with the Islanders. I don't know. There was a cool moment that Marty St. Louis said that when he was 12, he got to score on Patrick Waugh. So that's a pretty awesome factoid. Rangers, since December 4th, have not been playing good at all. Zibanejad, I think, has got like a 13-game goal drought. Trocheck had a pretty decent week. Kreider's calling his teammates out today. Laviolette doesn't really know what to say to the media. Listen, the New York Rangers are still at the top, but the Hurricanes are right behind you now. Hurricanes have been playing so well lately. But I want to tell people, this is how hockey is. You can't be winning all the time. It just doesn't work that way. That's why it's such an amazing sport. It's not like other sports where, you have half the season figured out in but we're half the season. This is when you have droughts, and that's individual and team. So um, don't panic, Rangers fans. Don't panic, Rangers players, because you'll get your game back. It's going to happen. Um, you are good enough of a team to be able to deal with this. Number 1 and 2 in college rankings are facing off this weekend. BC won the first game over BU. Great hockey to watch if you have a way to get your hands on it. I believe it's on ESPN Plus, but check it out. We're starting to get into the way college hockey works. If you're not familiar, February and March are really big months because it kind of after the holidays and things like that, things really start to kind of click in before we get to the not only the league championships but also to the Frozen Four. So keep an eye on college hockey. And as I mentioned in my last episode, because of the All-Star break, we're going to have some time off from the NHL. Watch a college game, totally worth it. Not surprising, the All-Star game will happen before the next episode. So there are some wild stats to think about when it comes to that. I'm very happy with this platform, and I just want to say we have 3 days of the All-Star events to be able to watch. There's a PWHL 3-on-3 tournament that is going to be cool to watch. The skills competition this year is all about skill and not about wearing costumes and crap, hopefully. And the games are always good. It's going to be 4 teams. It's going to be the small tournament like we always love, and it's going to be great. Sidney Crosby is coming this year, and Sidney Crosby has a lot of stats in the All-Star game. And this year he's just going to have another year he can add to that. One thing I want to mention as an old wild stat from the All-Star game is this: since I always think Super Mario is the GOAT and Gretz is number 2. Sorry, that's just the way I think. A lot of people just go on numbers, but as a coach, I go on skill and numbers. And Mario Lemieux, given his injuries and stuff like that, when it came to putting a team on his back, he was the guy. I'm sorry. Gretzky knew how to use the guys around him to make him better, but that's an endless conversation, but we won't go there. But did you know that they are tied with 13 All-Star goals in their career? Which is wild because usually Gretzky's ahead of that. But the wildest thing about it is that Gretzky scored 13 goals in 18 games, 18 All-Star games, while Mario did it in 10. So something to be said there about who's the real GOAT. Don't get me wrong, Gretzky will never drop below 2, but it's always the battle between 1 and 2 in my mind, until some kid comes along down the road and changes my mind on that. Andrew Kopp was not about his 100th goal. I'm sure you guys have seen this highlight all over social media. It was pretty funny. He got his 100th goal against the Flyers. He gets off the ice. He goes to Trevor, one of the guys for Detroit Sports, Bally Sports. And of course, he said something nice. Oh, well, what do you think about your 100th goal? And basically, Andrew Kopp just said, I don't give a shit about that. Which just goes to show, A, he probably didn't mean to be so direct about it, but B, because he's worried about his team. And that's why guys like him are why the Red Wings are staying afloat currently. All right. The elephant in the room to talk about is WTF is wrong with the NHL and this elephant in the room from the 2018 World Junior Championship Canada team. Just say why these players are taking a leave of absence. When someone does something wrong and is charged for it, then that isn't that info should stick with them like glue, until proven innocent. But we have privileged white athletes. And yes, I call them white athletes because wealthy white athletes that live in our sport are sometimes the biggest problem. And they think that they can get away with things. When you're in high school and some guy like takes your book and pops it out of your arm, and he's like the quarterback of your football team or something like that. The world needs to know what you did that summer. So a brief on this for you people that might not know the news report. In 2018, the World Junior Championship winner was Team Canada. They celebrated a victory in the summer in London, Ontario, at a gala golf event. Some of the players were charged with sexual assault in a nearby hotel room. I say some because one of the women involved filed a lawsuit against Hockey Canada. She had stated the players involved, which cleared some players. So Cale Makar, Jordan Kyrou was not even there at the gala, and others from any charges. Well, this was a big piece of news in the hockey world. The courts, though, slid it under the rug and settled out of court like they usually do for pro athletes that are doing something incorrectly. And of course, these guys went to play on the NHL. So I feel like the names because of course they don't say who was named or called out, but Carter Hart, Dylan Dubé, Michael McLeod, and Cal Foote are all out on leave, and I have a feeling something has brewed from the surface about this situation, and then yes, if these guys are guilty for what was mentioned, they should be charged for it, and I think not only charged for it, but the NHL should remove their NHL card. Hopefully, if they're charged for it, they'll do time. But again, pro athletes, especially white pro athletes, can get a slap on the wrist usually, which is terrible. The NHL has stopped the sale of jerseys. Wow, woo hoo. This is such terrible news because this is toxic stuff that happens in sports that makes parents not want their kids being involved in it. This is why a lot of parents just let their kids play video games, even though there's harassment and all this stuff that happens over on a microphone in a video game when they're playing online. So that's there as well. Heck, in Canada, a teenager can't take a shower after a game any longer because of this terrible stuff. Wake up, kids, and parents. You are creating this toxic environment for your kids. These kids you can't just sit here and say these kids are getting this from the iPad that you give them to help you cope with them. So, in all sports, at all ages, when will this stuff on the field, in locker rooms, and outside the facility stop? Because the other 90 some odd percent of us that don't do this stuff because we were raised right, and we would never treat women this way. We would never treat our teammates this way. We would never treat someone that we think is lesser than us this way. It's got to stop. And it's so frustrating to me because it's I've seen it, I've experienced it, and it's not good. It's not the way for sports to be. Sports is supposed to be fun. Sports is supposed to be competitive, and sports is supposed to teach you how to deal with problems, not teach you how to be an asshole. So, more news on this situation, even though it's been 5 years, and I can't believe that it took 4 years for this girl to file a lawsuit, because that's just sad. That just means that was just fear. And obviously she was pushed away, and that fear came about. This should have been dealt with right away. People shouldn't be afraid when something happens to say their mind, but you never know what someone's going to do back to you. So, well, more to come. Oh, sorry, I'm a little spiced up on that one, because it makes me angry. It's the hockey coach who is a designer, thoughts. We've got this week. We've got these Sharks third jersey with a fin on the chest, and man, they're fire. They're nice. I'm glad they're a little darker because I'm still kind of on the fence of this kind of bright teal kit that they have now with head to toe teal in San Jose. But these jerseys are really nice, so buy them. They're amazing. Maybe buy Logan Couture's back, so check that out. Also, the Stadium Series jerseys were released today, and sorry, as usual, eh, yeah, and yeah, really. The Devils one is awesome. It's very easy for me because I love red. I love red and black. And seeing a jersey that's fully red like that with the black New Jersey Devils logo is very cool. Like that. My next is the Flyers jersey. Flyers is classic. The Flyers crest is a pretty classic logo. So I'm glad they didn't fly too far away from that. The New York Rangers jersey, I like it, but again, the New York Rangers third jersey and this jersey, the logo is too big. They always advertise some kid that like weighs 100 pounds wearing a hockey jersey and it's draped on him properly, and then some dude that actually weighs 250 pounds that is in their 30s or 40s, has an R underneath one arm and an N over their shoulder or something because the freaking logo's so big. The Islanders one, I'm not into it. I'd rather see the Gordon Fisherman Isles anytime. Coach's Corner with Coach Steve this week. Since we already spoke about the Russians, there's not much more to say about, making sure players that might watch my show or listen to my show, you got to have your hands on puck. That was Real Turcotte's thing. That was the Russians. If the more your stick is on the puck and you're playing around doing some stick handling drills at home, on the street, on the sidewalk, on a tennis court, or on the ice, the more you have your hands on the puck, the better. And the more you have your hands on the puck, the less you're going to panic when you have it. So that's my only Coach's Corner thing. Today's interview is it was sent to me by a friend up in Pittsburgh, and I didn't expect it. I was like, okay, yeah, I'll talk to him. Today's a conversation with a true retired hero from the Navy. Dave Jackel played hockey for his whole life and is now using the sport to help his brothers and sisters from the military heal through hockey. The Pittsburgh Warriors are a great organization, as all the Warrior teams are. I don't know if anyone might know that USA Hockey has been a big proponent of the Warrior teams, and they call them Warrior teams because they're kind of all over the country. They're spread out all over the country, and they are teams that are for veterans. They raise money for mental health and awareness. They get military guys together that can have conversations about things that they might not be able to talk about at home. And it really does do wonders for these guys. During the interview, I will leave a QR code on screen to help you check out the Pittsburgh Warriors and maybe donate a bit to them, because the point of the organization is that every player gets to play for free, because ice and equipment is very expensive, and we all know this. So I'm very excited to move on to Dave. Here we go. Well, folks, we've got a Pittsburgh area defenseman here, formerly a senior chief electronics technician in the Navy. He is highly decorated, retired Navy vet with 20 plus years of service. Thank you for your service. I counted 4 gold stars, 5 bronze stars, and your extensive military experience, as well as a bunch of other medals. I hope all those pins.
So hold on, I gotta pause you there because they're not bronze stars; they're bronze attachments. Okay. I didn't get the bronze star.
Okay.
That's a big deal.
but still, we know that there's a lot of like pins involved. You must have a pretty heavy jacket. But deputy chief at Homeville Volunteer Fire Company in West Mifflin, Pennsylvania. president and player of the Pittsburgh Warriors hockey team, an organization that helps disabled veterans heal through hockey. Dave is married to his high school sweetheart, Talisha, and a father of 2 wonderful children. Welcome, Dave Jackel.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man, it's so great to have you. I'm really great to dig into what the Pittsburgh Warriors do. But first, I gotta ask you the major question. What's your fondest hockey memory?
So I actually prepared for this one. I had a feeling you were going to ask me that. So
Good.
It involves my son. He's 20 years old now, and we put him on ice skates when he started walking, basically. He's 4 years old. He started playing. I was stationed at the Naval Academy at the time on staff in Annapolis, Maryland. We were living just outside of Baltimore, and got him in a learn to play program. And he'd done some skating lessons here and there. So did my daughter, and they did their thing. And he gets out there with a stick, and he's out there by himself, just kind of tooling around with a puck. And they let me go in with him to help. And he and I had a fun relationship where we would just argue and fight about everything. He's 4 years old and I wasn't, and we just argued and argued and argued and fought and argued. And this was at the Laurel Ice Gardens in Laurel, Maryland. And the big man at the rink, Coach Tom, he was like the Badger Bob of the rink. And he came over and patted me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, Dad, I got it. Go sit down." So I got kicked off the ice the first time Max was on the ice with the hockey stick. So that's among other championships and things that, good things we've done. But that's my favorite memory.
That's a good one. Man, it just because it reminds me of those drives home after a game and your dad's like, well, you could have done this and this and this. And you're just kind of like, "Okay, Dad, all right,
We've had them too.
Yeah. I'm sure. So we're going to start kind of in chronological order here because I'm very curious about your hockey life before you entered the military and how that was growing up in PA. Because of course, I've had some pretty good PA players on the show, and I'd love to hear what your experience was like.
Yeah, so in typical Pittsburgh fashion, I didn't do anything with hockey until the Penguins decided that they wanted to be a really good hockey team. So I graduated high school in 95. So I grew up in the early to mid 90s, and that was my formative years. And, we did street hockey. We did baseball, soccer, football. I tried every sport except wrestling. I never was into that, but every sport I tried just wasn't my fit. It didn't work out. Really close friend of mine had a bunch of street hockey sticks at his house, and the neighborhood kids were playing one day, and he said, "Here, try it." I had no idea what I was doing. We did it, and fast forward 30 plus years later, and now here I am.
That's interesting because you and I are pretty close in age because I graduated in 96, and of course the Penguins got so hot in the early 90s. That was also when the Red Wings started getting really hot.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
And then on top of it, street hockey started becoming a thing that people talked more about, inline hockey. So those all those things meshed together definitely made us full-on hockey addicts.
Yeah, that guy Matt that I was talking about, him and his dad talked me into going to take skating lessons with figure skates out at the old Ross Draver ice rink in Pittsburgh. For you guys in Pittsburgh, know and love that place. We did that in 8th grade, and in 9th grade, my high school started a hockey team, and I got asked if I wanted to play, and I just never looked back. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I'm jealous. We didn't have a high school team, so I'm jealous you got to experience that.
We had an experience, that's for sure.
The one thing that I know you ended up in the Navy. Give the listeners a little synopsis of your career in the Navy.
I went in basically right out of high school. I joined the lead entry March of my senior year, and in September I went to boot camp or basic training. Not what I thought it was going to be, but at the same time I didn't have an expectation either. So I am from a Navy family, but caveat to that, my grandfather was a commander, World War II, Korea time frame. Never once talked to him about the military. Unfortunately, he passed away before I had a chance to ever really care about the military. In the early 90s, nobody cared about the military. It was just like, it was a thing that if you knew people, you knew people. But other than that, and you know how it was. And it wasn't really a topic. And then my dad was also in the Navy, but he was in the Seabees, which is the construction battalion. So he never even saw a ship, or he saw them, but he wasn't ever out to sea on a ship. So he couldn't tell me anything about the Navy. The recruiter came and spun a good yarn, and that was the end of it. So, but yeah, so I went to boot camp and survived through that. Had some challenges academically through my naval career, and got sent to a couple different schools and traveled all over the place. I was in Chicago for about a year, and my wife moved out there. Well, she wasn't my wife at the time, but she moved out there with me, and we did we don't have any money. We're going to do everything on credit cards lifestyle. And it hurt. It hurt bad, but we got through it. And some challenges to our life there. And we got through that and went to another follow-on school in Virginia, and then ended up going out to San Diego. Got on my first aircraft carrier. My first ship was aircraft carrier USS Constellation, she is now decommissioned. But it was an absolute love of my life. Like, first girlfriend, just the best thing. I could tell you things about that ship today that I couldn't tell you about what I did yesterday. You know what I mean? It was just, I was just a part of that ship. That ship's a part of me, and it always will be. And I just love that ship to death. From there, I got some good stories about that ship too, if we have time to get into them. So there's some good world history things that happened while I was there. After that, I came home to Pittsburgh. I was out in eastern part of the city in Monroeville. I did a recruiting tour. Pretty successful as a recruiter, and I really enjoyed that job. I didn't enjoy the hours and the cold calls and the salesmanship of it, but I enjoyed offering the Navy to people because it's just such a great experience that I had. Then from there, I went to a destroyer in Virginia, and I fell in love with being in a small ship Navy, and it was just completely different than the large ship Navy. So it was a real small crew, got to know everybody, got to experience a lot, got to be a real big, important part of the crew. After that, I did the tour at the Naval Academy that we talked about a little bit ago, and went back to, after that, my wife and kids came back here to Pittsburgh, and I went back down to Virginia for my last final tour in the Navy on another destroyer, and I retired from there. So, and the whole time that I was in the Navy, I was doing hockey somewhere. When I was out in San Diego, it was kind of cool. We were on North Island, which is where all the aircraft carriers are, the northern part of the naval area there. And they had a deck. It was a sport court deck, which was, 96. Nobody knew what that was. It was brand new back then, or at least it was new to me. It was me and one other guy were the only ones that ever used that deck. We would just grab rollerblades and we just go shooting and shooting and shooting. And I don't know his name. He doesn't know my name. We just played hockey. And then
that's kind of a pretty awesome thing when you get a guy like that you're just like, oh, you know what? I remember that guy, but I don't remember his name.
Yeah, we just enjoyed the game of hockey. That's all it was. And it was no competition. It was nothing. We just went out and shot and had fun, and it was just a good time. And when I came back here for the recruiting tour, I linked up with a couple of the guys I played high school hockey with. We played beer league, we played deck, we played roller. We did a little bit of everything, and I've just been playing beer league ever since. And
that's
one
awesome.
of the great things about the game of hockey is there's a family environment around it. I played when I was in Annapolis at the Naval Academy. I got in with the Anne Arundel Fire Department with their team, so there's a mutual connection with the fire side of things. They are a fire department that sponsors a hockey team as their, a lot of fire and police teams do. I got connected through somebody in my kids' preschool. Her brother played on the team and he got me in, and those guys are family. I haven't been there for 10 years now, and I'm pretty good friends with these guys, and they ask me to come back for tournaments every now and then. And I haven't played with them in 10 years, but it's just a good connection that I have with these guys. And it's all because of this game that we love.
Yeah. And too that, and I speak it as much as I possibly can. All the other sports I played, I didn't play football, but I played a lot of other ones, and it's never been the same camaraderie that you get when you play hockey. And I think it's a little bit of the battle that happens. I think, when you're younger and you're dealing with the physicality of it, and it's a lot more hitting and stuff like that. It's a battle, and when you're doing that with other people, that's big. And I actually was going to ask you about that because I'm very curious about the camaraderie. There's so much camaraderie in the military in all branches, and I'm kind of curious the comparison of that camaraderie you have with your brothers from that you served with versus guys that you play hockey with.
Yeah, it's interesting, and that's what really makes what we're doing with the Warriors, both in Pittsburgh and nationwide, because this isn't just a Pittsburgh thing. There's Warrior teams throughout the country. But Warrior hockey, or veteran hockey in general, but Warrior hockey specifically, that is why we're so successful. It's because we're able to use this game as a therapy tool. So it's not just the fact that we're going out and playing hockey once a week or twice a week or whatever it is. We're using it as a support system. We're using it as a safe space. And I say this a lot. I talk a lot of interviews I do and people I talk to. I always say that, safe space in our time right now is kind of a taboo term. Everybody looks bad upon that, but you need a safe space. Mental health is real. It's just as real as physical health is. If you're not comfortable with what you're doing and why you're doing it and who you're doing it with, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we try to do. We try to use this game as just the way to bring everybody together and allow you to feel comfortable in where you're at. And the only reason that happens is because hockey is such a different environment. It's just, we found something and captured it in a bottle. I don't know what it is or why it exists, but everybody who's ever went into a hockey locker room at any level will tell you the same thing. We're different than football. We're different than baseball. We're different than basketball. It's just different. Until you experience it, you don't know what that difference is.
And the one thing I love about it too is that, when they use the terms and organizationally about hockey is for everyone, that same kind of like nugget of perfection that happens there works for everybody, whether it be, LGBTQ plus hockey players, whether it be people from different races and different countries and things like that. It's always, that nugget's kind of the same. Yep. And I love that about it. As far as the Pittsburgh Warriors goes, I'm kind of curious how you started that, because I looked at the year, looking kind of through, doing a little research on you, kind of looking at the year you retired from the military, and it looks like you didn't. I don't know when you started the Pittsburgh Warriors. It didn't seem like it was right directly after. And what was it, as you were mentioning, was it like a real like, man, I really need this. I really need to have something like this.
Yeah, so that's actually a great thing that I love to tell this story, because it ties into every aspect of my life. It ties in my home life, my fire department life, and my military life. So I retired in 2015 in officially October, but I came home in July. Just kind of did my thing here, and I was doing the volunteer fire thing, which around here is extremely busy. We're in an urban, more urbanized suburb area of Pittsburgh. Old mill towns, a very they're hard neighborhoods. There's a lot of life in these neighborhoods. So we're very busy on a volunteer side. And one of my friends, I did not start the Pittsburgh Warriors. I have to say that first and foremost. I've been here since early days, but I haven't been here since the beginning. So the team was around in some shape or form at some point from 2016, 17-ish, somewhere around there. This version of the Warriors that we have now was started in 2018. Officially, the corporation paperwork is 2018, September-ish, somewhere around there. So that period of time from 2015 to 2018, I was kind of just trying to figure out how to not be in the military. And so anybody who knows me inside, outside, or around the military, it was my life. My family sacrificed because of my love for the military. My family sacrificed because of my love for my job. I was married to my job. I absolutely loved everything about putting those anchors on my shoulder and just putting that uniform on every day. I was very proud of it. I was very good at it. I hate to be boastful about it, but I was really good at what I did.
Be as boastful as you want about it.
So, and I'm very proud of what I did. So that's a good way to say it. But so when that ended, you lose something, and this is the same for every single person who goes through the military. A lot of people who go through anything in life, this is the same for. But I found it more so with veterans that it affects them more. Veterans, first responders, professional athletes are all kind of similar to what I'm getting ready to talk about. And there's just a piece that's missing. Something's not there. You don't know how to identify it sometimes. I had very hard time identifying it. And my biggest problem was I was having a very hard time fitting back into my family. I still do to this day. I've been home a little over 8 years now, and I'm still having trouble sometimes fitting into what's going on. Because like I said, they were here for 3 years while I was still out on active duty. So they had a life for 3 years without me in it. I mean, I come home on the weekends here and there, whatever. I'd call, whatever. But I wasn't in the every day-to-day kind of thing. So now everything shuts off. Now I have to come back here. And while I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on with my head, my whatever, I'm trying to get back into their life. And it was a hard mesh. And it still kind of is sometimes. And you need something as an outlet. So, like you said in your intro, that my wife and I have been together since our senior year in high school. She's been through every minute of my military career, good, bad, ugly. She's been there for it. She's been through it, but she doesn't understand what I did, what I went through. She understands how it affected me and what it was doing to me, but she wasn't there doing it. Where these guys that I'm playing hockey with were there. They might not have been right next to me, but they experienced a similar lifestyle that what I did. So when I was kind of trying to figure everything out, my safe space at the time was the fire department was what I put my head around. And it's a very important, very, very important part of my life. And one of my very good friends here, who's also a veteran, he's a Marine Corps veteran, his name's Adam. He told me about the Warriors, and I didn't know anything about it. He knew that I played hockey and just kind of beer leagued around, and I wasn't playing any hockey at all. I had about a 3-year break that I didn't do anything. He told me about it, and I was like, yeah, that sounds cool, whatever. So I had messaged her I found him on Facebook and had a tryout or something, and I couldn't go. So I missed it. So the next year came around and they did another one. And this is for the version of the Warriors that's here today. There's a little bit of history that goes on with that, but the version of the Warriors that's here today had another practice that they put on Facebook. Adam found it again, told me about it, and I actually went this time and started playing, and it's just one of the best things that's ever happened to me, because not only is it helping me find my place, now I'm allowed to help use my skill sets that I have, my personality, my type A, whatever, my energy, I guess, to help other veterans do the same thing. And turn around, and Adam is now one of those veterans who's in the program, who's getting helped by the program too. So it just everything ties back around together. And it's just great seeing. And I know Adam very well. We were very close. We've been friends for a very, very long time. He and I both are extremely reliant on this program to help us get through stuff that we're going through. So, and it's everybody, all the men and women that we have in our roster in Pittsburgh and throughout the country just understand the value of what we're trying to do, and it's working extremely well for the most part.
That's so awesome, because I even every time I kind of write my interview up, I put a little theme to it, so it gives me a little bit more kind of like structure to the questions I want to ask. But this one today is hockey is medicine, and the thing that I'm curious about, more so than the on ice moments, what are the Warriors doing to support themselves, the community, the organization? I'm kind of curious what happens off the ice for you guys.
That's great, and I appreciate you asking about that, because that's a very important part of who we are. So the biggest things like that we can do is support each other. And one of the greatest things we get to do is we participate in 2 tournaments a year that are hosted by USA Hockey. They're Warrior Division tournaments. It's all Warrior teams. There's no other. You have to be a disabled veteran to participate in these tournaments. It's a road trip. You get to go. You get to get away from the family. You get to go just be with your team and just hang out. There's goods to that and there's bads to that. You get a group of people together for a long period of time, you're going to have some stuff going on between them,
Yeah.
fighting, arguing. It happens, but you get through it. You shake hands and it's go on to the next day. And that's very important to us to be able to do that and we try to allow the veteran to have as much of a cost neutral or cost zero experience with us. So, and I know we'll talk a little bit more about fundraising and stuff like that later, but that's the biggest part about it is we try to make we don't want money to be a barrier to a veteran getting the help from our hockey program. We try to give back. This year, we're going to do it a lot more. My mission for the Warriors for 2024 is to get more involved in the community. We have been involved in the community, but I plan to get more involved in the community this year. The Penguins Foundation is an extremely important part of us, of who we are. They're our biggest supporters, our biggest sponsors. They run a program. They opened an armory. It's an old National Guard armory in the Shady Side section of Pittsburgh, and it's gorgeous. They took one of the they took one of the temporary rinks that they used during the Winter Classic, and they put it inside this building, and it's a temporary rink for now. Hopefully, it becomes permanent at some point. But for now, they turned this old National Guard armory into a freaking ice rink, and it's awesome.
Very cool.
And what they do there is they run they run a program for learn to skate, learn to play hockey for the kids in the city of Pittsburgh. Because in the late 90s, early 2000s, I don't exactly know when it was, there was only one rink in the whole entire city, inside the city limits of Pittsburgh, one rink.
Yeah,
And it
no,
shut down.
I had a lot of knowledge of that over the last couple episodes, and then having good friends that are Pittsburghites.
Yeah.
I know that Meadville Mall arena was a big thing for a lot growing
Oh,
up.
no, you're talking about the Monroeville Mall.
Oh yeah,
That's outside the
Monroe,
city,
yeah,
though.
the Dawn of
That's
the
outside
Dead,
the city. Yep.
the Dawn of the Dead
Yep.
Mall.
That's Monroeville. Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's in the suburbs. That's out in the east suburbs. But it's that's actually, I recruited in that mall. My office was in that mall. But yeah, there was one ice rink in the whole entire city, and it closed
wow,
down in the early 2000s, and now there's nothing until the Penguins open this rink. And what they do is they'll ask us to come out Saturday mornings and help out with their Learn to Play program, and it gets kids who don't have ready access to what this game is. It's sponsored by the Pens Foundation, sponsored by Crosby, it's sponsored by all these guys. The equipment's free, the experience is free to the kids. Just they come out and they learn how to play, and we go out and help them, we teach them how to hold the stick and all that kind of stuff. This year we got involved with the Wreaths Across America. We help do stuff with that. We're involved with different VFWs and certain things like that. So we're trying to get out in the community as much as we can. We want to show people that veterans are special people, but they're not broken. They might be fractured, but they're not broken. And we struggle through things. We have good, bad experiences through the military, but that doesn't make us a leper. It makes us,
yeah.
now we have interesting stories to tell, and we can provide value to our community, and this allows us a voice to do that.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people kind of feel that fragility a bit, and I don't think that because you guys, you guys protected us and did so much for yourselves, so much for our country. So, and I'm totally respectful of that. And I think a lot of people are respectful of it. I think they're just like, I don't really know if I really want to bring them in because I'm afraid that I don't want to upset them or things like that. And
that's one of the big stigmas that's out there right now is everybody, when they hear the term disabled veteran, everybody thinks that a Vietnam veteran that's in a wheelchair is just angry at the world about everything because of the way they were treated.
yeah,
We're not that. We're not. You don't have to be visible scars. There's more people out there that are walking around with invisible scars than there are with visible scars. And
yep.
there's no reason to have a negative thought around what a veteran is or what a veteran can do, because a veteran can teach somebody something that they will not learn in school.
Yeah, for sure. No, and I mean, it's the fact that I love that you guys. I love this idea that you guys are starting to amp up, being more community driven, as well as having your tournaments and raising money and things like that. And it's not just bake sales, I'm sure, but trying to come up with interesting solutions probably to raise money and make sure that I really love that the guys are playing for free because they deserve that. As well
Can I send a shout out real quick to one of the events that we got involved in?
Yeah.
So one of the guys on our team has a family member who was very close friends with a young lady in high school that committed suicide. And this is a couple years ago. So Sean got tied in with her family and knows her family real well. And they started doing a hockey tournament to memorialize her at the Deer Lakes High School. And so we got involved with that because our main mission, our number one mission, is anti-suicide. We want to do our best to lower the number of 22 veterans a day across the country to commit suicide. So we try to get involved in that. We support the family. We try and help them raise funds. And it goes back to a program that they have at that school that is all about mental health. It's about allowing kids somewhere to get help for mental health and all that stuff. So that's another way that we reach out to the community. But it's the Maura Rupert Memorial Deer Lakes hockey tournament that they do. So, and I know we'll talk about another memorial here coming up pretty soon too. So
that's pretty amazing. I mean, because those facts and definitely suicide, especially amongst males, has driven through the roof in recent years. And I think it's one of those things that's just not talked about enough.
Yep.
And people think it's not there. And people think, but it's there. It's really, and it's a really
there.
important thing.
It's definitely there.
As far as the Warriors moves, as far as the community, how often do you guys play?
So we try to make at least 1 hour of ice a week available to our crew, at least. And that's 300 or not 365 days because you have holidays and stuff in there. But we try to do it
Sure.
once a week all year round. Um, there's challenges to that. You can't always do it once a week, but our goal is at least once a week or as much or as close to that as we can possibly get. Now, the problems that come with that is ice cost around here. It costs $500 an hour. So, and sometimes more depending on the time of the season that it is. And then you have, with high school hockey being and club hockey being as huge as they are in Pittsburgh, it's really hard to find ice. There's a ton of beer league going on here. There's just hockey, a lot of hockey. The only time that you can usually find during the season is during the day, but a lot of people work. So
Yeah.
that's one of the challenges. So we try to provide that year round. We want to have kind of we want to make it like a rote environment where it's just something where people can always come to and they always know it's going to be there. They always know where we're going to be. Something else that we do is that the Hunt Armory that I was talking about earlier with the Penguins is they have donated, the Penguins Foundation has donated to us about 3 hours of ice every Sunday night while that rink is open. And what we started doing with that last year is we started running a disabled veteran hockey league. So what we do, it's just people who are on our roster are eligible to play in this thing. And we do a draft. Right now we have 4 teams. We'd love to expand if we can, but right now we have 4 teams. We do a draft. We have a draft party. We do player rankings. It's very, very similar to a lot of the Dex type stuff that goes on with the beer league out there. Where it's self-graded on a grading scale, and then you do a draft. And you have coaches, we have captains, not coaches. Sorry. You have captains that pick teams. Every player has a value. You have a salary cap, and the teams are relatively even. We have some guys who have been playing hockey for 30 years, some guys who played ACHA. We have some guys who have never stepped in their feet in ice skates ever in their lives. But we're all out on the ice at the same time, just enjoying each other and just having fun and just getting release. We're getting that release that we need.
Yeah. No,
in that safe environment.
That's good. It's good that it's not, because I mean that's the fear of a lot of different organizations that are kind of hockey related. It's kind of a tournament based thing, and that's kind of it. And so it's good that you guys are being, so forward about making sure you get the ice. It's so great that the Penguins offer you guys that free ice.
They are tremendous partners of ours. Absolutely, I can't say enough about the relationship we have with them.
I actually have a question about that. That I had on my list here was that partnership from the get go you guys had the Penguins involved?
Yeah,
or
in some shape
was
or
it kind of
form
along the way?
It was existing before I got here. So in the early stages of this program, there was a version of a relationship with the Penguins. I don't know anything about it. I wasn't here, so I can't speak on it.
Right.
But I will say that the relationship we've had with them over the last 5 years is just, I can definitely speak on that because I've been right in the middle of it. And man, they're family to us. They really are family to us. And they've gotten, we were inside the locker room when Mike Matheson was playing for the Penguins, defenseman. I met him at an event. So he was very supportive of what we're doing. You name him. Mario understands what we're doing, is very supportive of it. Jay Caulfield, Colby Armstrong, Kenny Reggett, who I know you know. Kenny Reggett I hope he watches this because I just want him to understand how much he means to us and me personally. He's just such a nice person, and just him and Nicole both are just amazing people. And then the alumni connection that I heard you on when you talked to Kenny about the alumni and his presence with the alumni and all that. Tyler Kennedy, these guys are all supportive of us. But our biggest time with the alumni is Ryan Malone. I don't know if some of your viewers might know, might not know him, but he's the first player born in Pittsburgh to be drafted into the NHL. He played for the Penguins, and he moved around a little bit here and there, but he's still has ties. His dad, Greg, who's also a Penguins player, is here. Yeah. Still lives in Pittsburgh, so Ryan's home a lot. And we met him in a tournament a couple years ago, and it's become an instant friendship with him. He is, when I say family, this dude he's that cousin who comes and we don't want him to leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I'm glad you kind of teed up my my next question, because I know the Warrior Cup's a big deal, and I know Ryan Malone and his family, the Malone Family Foundation, is a big part of that. And it's really nice to know someone that can really dig into his hometown, and you know, I'm excited. Eventually, I'll probably have a conversation with Ryan Malone as well.
Well,
But
I definitely recommend it.
yeah, but one question I was going to ask about that, because it kind of mentioned where you went to high school. Did you guys go to high school together?
No, no, I'm actually a little
Okay.
bit older. I'm older
Uh,
than him, a
okay.
couple years.
All right. Because I
But
was like, maybe there's like that extra connection.
no,
Yeah. No.
but I will say that I think what was the most connection point between he and I, other than the hockey thing, is he was at one point in time a volunteer firefighter in
That's pretty cool.
in his post hockey life.
Yeah.
So that when he and I found that out about each other, it kind of was like, oh, we're going to be friends now. So
Yeah. No. I actually found out a friend of mine who works for the for MTV, and actually was on a big had a big event, and actually it was in Pittsburgh for mental health.
yep,
My friend Jay Osterman, and he
Jay's a great dude.
yeah, he connected me with Ryan, and a couple weeks ago I was just at their house because I wanted to meet their new little one. So and of course he's from Detroit just like I am, so
Yeah.
we had to watch a little Lions. So
So can we talk a little bit about that event that we did with MTV?
yeah, for sure, I'd love that.
So Ryan, I don't know how it all happened, but Ryan hooked up with Jay and a couple other people at MTV, and they supported, as part of their Mental Health Action Day. They supported a health and wellness event. So what we did is we had a panel. So we had a couple Warriors, a couple NHL alumni just get up and kind of talk about the whole post life, post whatever, post military, post professional life, because we face the same challenges that professional athletes face. They do something their entire life, and then one day it stops.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. So we did a panel while all the guys talked and all this and all that. Then we had a game afterwards. Some celebrities, some active NHL players, some came and did that, and it was just all revolving around using hockey as that mental fixer, basically. And we did another event with the Malone Foundation. It was an actual wellness camp. So Ryan got it hooked in with a couple other people from Adventures in Training with a Purpose, Aurelius 2.0 program here in Pittsburgh. And they really focus on the mental health side of healing and using physical movement to heal. So their mission and what they provide falls right in line with our mission of what we're doing. So we did a whole off-ice camp. We did on-ice drills. Ryan's dad was out there yelling at me and making fun of me because I kept falling. And we just had a great time. And Colby was out there, and Colby talked smack because that's all Colby knows how to do is talk smack. It all just revolves around just trying to use this game as something that can make your body better. And I know we talked about this a little bit offline, but do you mind if I get into that, to the whole mental part of things?
Jump into it.
So we not me, because I'm an electronics guy. I'm a DIY person. I don't have any kind of training, any kind of education whatsoever. I'm just a normal dude. But somebody has figured out that when you have a brain injury, when you have anything going on inside your brain that isn't right, movement and action opens your brain up to figure out how to fix itself. Your brain wants to heal itself. It just doesn't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So especially with brain injuries is the big target of this statement. But so imagine everybody learns how to walk whenever they're babies. They learn how to walk, and they walk that way their whole life. Something happens, and now they can't do that anymore. So now their brain has to figure out a way to now adapt to that. Well, think about it this way: as you put somebody on ice skates, and now instead of your brain thinking this way, your brain has to think this way, because there's so many things going on. You have to learn how to stand up and figure that part of it out. You have to learn how to use the stick. You have to learn how to hit the puck. There's just so many moving things, and that's what makes hockey such a great avenue for helping not only mental health, helping any kind of physical health, because there's so much movement. Your whole entire body is moving all the time. And that's what makes this great, because it allows us to have a release point for the energy that we have. Plus, it also allows us the physical wellness and the mental wellness adaptations too.
Yeah. No, it's so important just because I've worked with an organization called Love Your Brain, and they kind of talk about yoga as a big conduit. But then you know I've heard all the things from neurologists and things like that as far as drinking water, making sure you drink water, when to drink water, making sure that you know it's amazing what the brain can do, and it's when you have a really heavy head injury. It's pretty shocking how fast it can go, and also how slow it can go as
Mhm.
far as the recovery from that. But these things are so intense, and it's so important. I love hockey so much for the fact that as a coach, I get to kind of talk that through people, and I'm constantly learning myself and changing my ways and coming up with new solutions, coming up with odd solutions, trying to, I mean, like really odd solutions. Like I have my kids right now, literally 4 cones on the ice, and they're just doing a lap, and I keep telling them there's one puck, and I'm only doing it because they don't talk to each other. And
Wow.
I'm like, off the ice, they talk to each other completely, but they have no idea how to like say where they're at. So
Yep.
I just tell them, I'm like, just pass the puck. And as you pass the puck, say where it's going. And I just tell them to kind of keep doing this lap. And if the pass is bad and it's behind them or something, let the guy behind you support you. And the guy behind you says, I got it, instead of like
Yeah.
stopping and running into him or something.
And that's
Um,
what makes this sport so great, is because it just allows you to think differently. It allows you to focus your brain and just your attack mode for how you want to solve a problem. It just makes you think differently. It's great.
yeah. And baseball's kind of segmented. Football's definitely plays. And I mean, there's a little bit of that in hockey, of course, where you need to be and kind of things like that. But it's hockey, soccer, basketball are incredibly creative. And as long as you don't get yourself hurt, you can be creative. But it's pretty amazing to kind of witness and see all of that, and then see how you respond to it after. Of course, when you're done, my biggest thing is that, and I tell my kids this a lot, that and you and I know this now that we're older and we've been playing a long time. If you don't come off the ice, whether you win or lose, with some type of like positive feeling, kind of like good about yourself, you're probably doing it wrong.
Yep, I
Um,
agree 1,000,000%. That's a
yeah,
great
because
statement.
it's just you got to be a good loser just like as you got to be a good winner. So
Yep.
it's
I think
important.
I think the constantly adapting mental state during the game of hockey is what helps us as veterans bring hockey into our lives. It's a warrior mentality that goes into the game, which is what we've been bred into. So they line up, both environments line up perfectly and mesh extremely well.
Yeah.
So
I think the challenge, I mean, let me know about this too, because I mean, I wasn't in the military, but because I used to I know about the Wounded Warriors, and I did a lot of Spartan races back in the day when I wasn't eating fried chicken sandwiches too much. But like, just seeing the resilience of these veterans and what they can get through. And I mean, it's how does that translate on the ice, and what you guys are seeing and feeling for each other, because it's just the resilience is just unbelievable. I'm just like, man, they won't stop. And I don't
yeah,
know if
it's
that's just because you guys were in the military or not.
I don't know. It's just the way that we are. And maybe it has to do with that. I don't know. But my favorite part of the whole thing is seeing those guys and girls who've never played before. They get out there and they catch the bug, and they want to get better. They're going to clinics. They just want to be on the ice all the time, and it's great. With our one of our very, very, very good friend of mine, who was our former president right before I was the president, JP, never played hockey in his life ever, and got skates with the Warriors. I don't know how he got connected to us. I don't. Doesn't really matter to me, because I'm glad he did, because he's a big part of my life now. And he came out and he struggled mightily when he first came out. He was getting frustrated, and we kind of did what we do, and we support it, and we just explained to him, like, blah blah blah, whatever. And now he's playing on like 5 teams, and he's doing all kind of, like, he's a maniac. He loves the game now,
Yeah,
and it's
some
great.
people find the bug a little too much. I know
Yeah.
guys like that. You know, I'm
He
like,
got
how's
into
your wife feel
into
about this?
yeah. JP got into jujitsu, so that's kind of sidetracking him a little bit, which is a great release for him also. So that's a good thing for him. But
Yeah.
yeah, seeing play, like, we have a lot of players like that, and that's one of the big stigmas about Warrior hockey is I don't know how to play. I don't know how to skate. We don't care. Come check it out. Once you meet the people, we've had a couple people who came and didn't come back. It happens with. We've been very fortunate in Pittsburgh that we have a lot of traffic for our program, and that's due to the Penguin support, and they put us on TV all the time, and it's we're out there, and people
Yeah.
and things what you're doing with us, and it gets our name out there, and we're fortunate that we have a lot of people coming through. There's some that have not, just didn't want to be here, and so they never came back, and that's fine. We're not for everybody. It is what it is. I wish everybody would stay because I think we have a great thing going. But those of the people who do come and just really find out what it's about, once you meet the people, you get hook, line, and sinker. You don't go anywhere because you meet the personalities. You just enjoy being around everybody, and then you learn about the game of hockey at the same time. Come on, man, it's a win-win.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I was going to ask you about, because I was curious about this, it seems like the Warrior Cup's a pretty big event for you guys, and I'm curious how that event looks, and just for the listeners, so they can understand, like, because I think you guys have like off ice training and some off ice discussions about mental health. Um,
Yep.
Kind of walk us through that event.
Yeah, we do a lot of different stuff, and there's a couple different Warrior Cups, if you want to call it that. So we have our Defenders Cup that we do for our tournament. I mean, for our league that we run. It has a cup at the end of it, which is a couple old naval surface gunfire support, big 5-inch shells, and an Army artillery shell that we made into a cup. It's pretty cool. And then you have the national tournaments that are the Warrior level tournaments through USA Hockey, and they have their cups with them too. And the chance to be able to go and compete against similar veterans who we are, it's just the chance, the bonding experience, because we have made lifelong friends in Tampa and Philly. Yes, we've made friends in Philly. I can admit it. I have friends in Philly. I never thought I'd say it, but I mean, there's people in Alaska that I'm friends with now because of Warrior hockey, and the cup is important. The winning of that is important, but it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is us getting out there with our brothers and sisters and just being with each other. And unfortunately, there are some people that are not here anymore. And I hate to bring that into the conversation, but it's a really, really valid and real piece of what we're talking about. But nationwide, we try to support each other as best as we can. We try to be there for each other. We try to really just know that we love each other, and there is somebody around that cares about people. And whether it's, the full suicide, or is any other kind of bodily harm, or just depression or alcoholism or drugs or whatever, we try to give somebody that alternative so they don't have to focus on those kind of things. We don't want somebody just grabbing some medicine, going sitting in a corner and, oh, woe is me. Let's do some physical movement. So
Yeah.
The VA is a great asset that we have available to us. There's some that are better than others. There's no question about that. But the VA is a great asset for certain people. It's not for everybody. Some people, the medicine thing works. Some people, the medicine thing puts them in a corner and puts them into a coma. And it doesn't work for them. So that's where we kind of just try to be that alternative. So the cup part of what you're asking me about is extremely important. And you always want to have that challenge and that Warrior competitiveness, but it's not the biggest thing in the world. We've been pretty fortunate that we've won a couple tournaments, and we're very proud of what we've done, because it's a lot of our guys have never played hockey before the Warriors. So we're very proud of this. But at the same time, if we don't win, just like you said, you walk away with your heads up high that you just had a great experience, and now I'm going to go have a beer with these guys, and probably a lot of beers with these guys,
Right.
And just have a good time, climbing on people's campers, and there's all kind of stories out there, but we'll let them go for a different conversation.
Well, I mean, I imagine it's such a huge move for the fact that, yeah, you guys have a pretty large roster of group of people. When you go somewhere else and there's more of that, and then go somewhere else and there's more of that, I'm sure it puts it into perspective that it's not just the 30 or 40. I don't know how many people you guys have on your roster, but
total, I have about 140 people total.
Wow.
on paper. Now,
Right.
Granted, with any other volunteer organization, you're not going to get 100% participation.
Right.
So we have with
That's
this league
pretty.
that we're running,
That's pretty impressive.
it's huge. That's very. We're up there with the other bigger programs out there throughout the country. There are some that are way bigger than we are. Granted,
Yeah.
we're not the biggest by any means.
Right.
But like we have about 50, 60 on a normal rotation with that league that we're running and all that kind of stuff. And that's one of the great things about doing that is with these tournaments, you can only take probably 2 teams.
Yeah.
It cost us to go out to Vegas for a tournament. It cost us around $25,000 to take a full team out there. So you take 2 teams, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, but not only that, you can only have 14 guys on a roster, maybe 15. That's even a lot.
Yeah.
So you only
want to make sure guys get some ice.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't just have 30 guys on the roster and say, okay, you're going to play once a period. It's who gets anything out of that.
Yeah.
So unfortunately there are people that don't get to go to tournaments, and it sucks, but you just can't do it. You have to have limitations. So that's where this league that we run comes in handy, because now we can get 60 guys on the ice on a rotating basis a lot better.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm looking forward in April to I'm going to be playing against you guys. So
here we go.
It's going to be fun. Don't worry. Like I said, I have a fried chicken sandwich problem. So,
well, I'll make sure you have some fried chicken then.
Yeah, no,
I see. Can we plug the tournament though?
We sure can. Yeah. I mean, we know the dates and everything. So, episode 2 had Tom Westfall on it. Tom Westfall lost one of his best friends, BC. Tom and his brother Ben, who has Ben has been connecting me to so many people. We're doing this event in April. There's going to be some pretty great things happening. I'm pretty sure we'll probably go to Ken Reggett's restaurant, 31
Gotta do
Grill.
That's awesome.
I'm sure. I think the Penguins are playing the Lightning that weekend. It's a day game though, but we'll have to figure that out.
Well,
yeah. So no, it's going to be great. There's all the games will be televised on YouTube, and it's I'm pretty excited to be part of it. Last year, it was pretty great. Unfortunately, out of it, since then, our team in New York, we lost a goaltender that was the MVP of last year's tournament, and we'll probably have a little patch made for him as well. So, that's the thing. I mean, these victories, these things like this, we still have to make sure for everybody that things are put into perspective, and that we have the ability to have events like this to raise money for great organizations, so that they can stay afloat and make sure they get to tournaments to talk about things like mental health and just the love of hockey.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's just I just met Ben recently, and just talking to him, we've had a lot of conversations on the phone, and our coach actually lives in the Meadville area where this tournament's going to be, so he knows Ben really well.
Yeah,
and Jeff has played in a tournament before, and it's just everything that they're doing. So Meadville hockey in the early '90s was like the mecca of Western Pennsylvania hockey. Like when I was the same age, I'm pretty sure very close to Brandon. He was playing the same time I was, and we just idolized Meadville hockey. Like they were the Penguins to us. And there's high school kids just like we were, but they were just really good hockey players.
Yeah.
And it's like they would come in and play after us or before us, and we'd sit there and watch them. So I'm very excited to be a part of this.
They won the state championship, I think, in 94 or 93,
94. I don't remember exactly, but it was around there.
Yeah.
But it's just like I'm excited that we get to represent the Warriors and get our name out there and advertise for the Warriors, but also at the same time really just support what they're trying to do up there, because it just sounds like a really fun time.
Yeah. No, I'm excited about it because I've been hungry for a little tournament love, because the pandemic slowed that situation down, because I had 2 tournaments that got canceled the first couple months, that we were all locked in. So I'm excited about it. I got one to kind of finish up. I got 2 questions actually to ask you. One is, you kind of already talked about what you guys want to do for community, but I'm really curious about, let us know what you're looking to do down the road for Pittsburgh Warriors? What's the future of the Pittsburgh Warriors look like?
So I think the future is just basically to grow. We want to get involved with as many veterans as we can possibly get involved with. We're a ragtag group. I mean, we are people who play hockey that are trying to administer a nonprofit program. We don't really know what we're doing, but we're pretty successful at it. So, but like I said earlier, my main focus this year is to get us out in the community. I want the community to understand who we are, why we're doing what we're doing, not the fact that we're just another beer league that's out there.
Right.
So, and that's when people look at people my age or our age, and they'd say, "Oh yeah, you got a hockey game at 11 o'clock at night." Well, we're just a bunch of idiots going out to play hockey.
Right.
We're more than that. Like we are that because a lot of us still do that, but at the same time, we're more than that. Like we're using this for a reason, for those veterans who don't know what to do with themselves. So,
Yep.
So, and the only way we can do that is to get the jersey out there. I mean, I wear this everywhere. As often as I can wear this logo, I try to wear it, and it's a good conversation piece.
Yeah, no, yeah, and it's pretty nice jersey. I got to admit, I like the black one that has like the kind of the gray and the gunmetal on it and stuff. It's kind of cool.
We were extremely proud of our jerseys. There's a lot of hard work by our design team that went into that. A couple of our players and just designed that jersey, and it's the gray that's on there is the gunmetal. That's the reason why we picked that. I mean, it looks sick. It looks absolutely sick, but the gray is to focus on gunmetal part of tying everything together. So we're just really proud of what we are as a program right now, and it's just we're in a good place. And I want my goal for the Warriors' future is to just get bigger, not necessarily bigger winning championships, bigger supporting veterans.
Yeah, no, that's pretty great. And then final question, and it's a little off topic, but I got to ask every Pittsburgh fan this. Other than Sid, who's your favorite Penn and why?
Oh man, I wouldn't even say Sid's my favorite. Honestly, truthfully, I wouldn't say that. Okay. He's an outstanding player. I love watching him play.
Yeah,
it's not my favorite, and
I've as a Detroit Red Wings fan, because we had a couple years that we weren't the best of friends, but
true.
It's really seeing Sidney Crosby through the second half of his career has been pretty amazing. I don't call him Cindy anymore, and I try not to be too hard on him. So
I'm gonna say two. There's two guys that are tied for me, and truthfully, it has nothing to do with hockey either way. One of them is Marc-Andre Fleury, just because he is. I just love his atmosphere. I love everything about him. I've never met him. He just seems like a great person, and I just love everything about him. Yeah. Another one is Mario, but it's not because of who he is on the ice. And I was one of the people. I don't know if you guys were the same way out where you were at, but we're very spoiled here in Pittsburgh. We know that. Mario wasn't ever my favorite player, ever. Patrick Waugh was my favorite player growing up. I'm a defenseman, but I love goalies. Like I always wanted to be a goalie. So Patrick Waugh was and still is my favorite player of all time. I know that I know you're not a big fan of that, but
it's all right. I mentioned it in my last episode that it takes me a second when the Flyers or when the Islanders took on Patrick Waugh. I'm like, as soon as I hear his name, it makes my blood boil a little bit. Then I'm like, okay, Steve, settle down.
Yeah.
And then I start to think about how impressive of a coach he's been.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to go back to three. There's three guys. So it's Marc-Andre, Mario, and Ryan Malone. And it's all for what they do off the ice. And it has nothing to do with hockey. So Ryan Malone, I've already talked about my love for that guy, and it's just everything he's doing for us is amazing. So, and Mario is very similar to that. He supports a lot of veteran causes. And I was fortunate enough through a connection of mine who was the founder of the Pittsburgh Warriors version that we have now. He's associated with another program in Pittsburgh, another veteran program in Pittsburgh, and he got me tied in to golf with Mario last year. So I rode 18 in Mario's cart, and he just talked smack the entire time because I am an absolute atrocious golfer. And I just got to know him as a person, and so he's now my favorite hockey player because I've got a chance to interact with him. So.
Yeah, no, I've never. I mean, I got to talk to Coach Joe Batista, who coached Penn State for a while, and he worked in the Penguins program when Mario just got drafted. Mm-hmm. And he goes, the kid can barely speak English, but you can't. He does everything he can. He's done everything he can for Pittsburgh. Obviously, he's done everything he can for the Penguins. and it's you can't not like him. I mean,
Yeah.
Mario Lemieux I think he's the greatest of all time. Everyone's always like, oh, Wayne Gretzky. I'm like, listen, I love Wayne Gretzky's number 2. Mario Lemieux. I never saw Wayne Gretzky go end to end and beat everybody on the ice.
It's just overall just roundabout skill, just complete skill. So I will say, can I make a mention of my favorite hockey moment ever?
Yeah, for sure.
So when the Pens won the Cup in 09, the Fleury flash at the end where he made a diving save. And
Oh, I don't remember that, Dave.
no, I bet
Thanks.
you don't at all, huh? But that is my all-time favorite hockey NHL moment of all time. And I jumped up and I put my beer up through the ceiling fan whenever that happened on accident. But I have a picture of that in my game room, and that is my favorite. And it makes it even better now that that I have a relationship with you, and I know that you're a Red Wings fan.
Well,
it makes it even better.
I'll let you enjoy your moment, Dave, because mine was very different in that moment. I love Marc-Andre Fleury, and I even mentioned it a couple times on the pod. With the exception of that save, if he could just not have made that one save, I would love him so much more. But I think Marc-Andre Fleury, just seeing him, and with the media, people talking to him, how he is in his communities. Now that he's been in so many various communities, he's hit like him, Derek Jeter. Those guys are like consummate pros. Like if they make a book about how to be a pro athlete, those guys got to be involved in that conversation. So
Yeah, I agree.
he's pretty amazing. Well, Dave, I got to say, I'm looking forward to meeting you in person in April. Definitely, if you're ever coming to New York, let me know. We'll take you to a hockey bar.
Sounds good.
And thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much for what you guys are doing for veterans, not only in Pittsburgh, but all veterans, because I know the Warriors program through USA Hockey is a huge one. So thanks for your time.
I appreciate it, Steve. Thanks.
Super great conversation with Dave and the Pittsburgh Warriors. They are doing so much to help veterans in the Pittsburgh area enjoy each other and get to have conversations with like-minded people that have been through a lot of similar things that they have gone through. And I want to remind everybody, it was all to protect us and make sure that we have this massive wall built around America that is our military. Always remember that, and always thank them for their service, because it takes a toll, and it takes a lot to be able to do that for us, for our safety. By the way, we are safe because of them, so we don't need our own arsenal. Wink, wink. I'm super excited to play against the Pittsburgh Warriors at an event in April called the BC Memorial Hockey Tourney in Meadville. My friend that organizes it and BC's brother organizes it. Apparently, I might be doing some color commentary for some of the coverage that will be that'll be aired. There'll be more info coming in future episodes on how you can watch that, the links and all that good stuff. And on top of it, I'll get to be able to meet some of these guests that I've had in real life. I'll get to meet Ken Regan. I'll get to meet Dave and have a beer and shake their hands and thank them for giving us such great content and such great stories. So that's this week's episode. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's move on to before we finish, let's hear a couple stories. And it's so good to be able to have those moments in the real in IRL, as the kids say, in real life. So I hope you like those stories. Well, surprise. I decided that I think my kind of loose fondest hockey memory would start with me, outside of being the host. Um, my fondest hockey memory is kind of a big one that a lot of my friends know about, and it's super important to me for the fact that it really brought me back to hockey. Um, back, we're going on in July 18th, it'll be 15 years. Starting to lose time because that's what age does to you. But I had a terrible cycling accident on the way to hockey on a Saturday. Sometimes I skate on Saturdays, and I was coming from softball. I was on a bicycle near where the Intrepid is in New York City on the west side, kind of Midtown West. I was riding a bike. We don't know if someone took me out, if I wiped out. We don't really know what the severity was of it. But I ended up in the hospital for 2 months, 48 screws, keeping my noggin together. And the reason it's a hockey story is that when I was in the hospital for those 2 months, of course my family was there. Of course, some close friends were there, but primarily it was my hockey buddies, guys that I battled with, guys that I laughed with, guys that I had a beer with from time to time. And I still, as a coach, I talk a lot about your friendships that you make in this sport, and it's something that'll never go away. It's always there. Out of all the sports I played in my life, your hockey buddies will always be there, and that's pretty prolific. It's my fondest memory. Included in that, I had to go back home to Michigan because in New York, if you have a head injury at the time, you had to be hospitalized. You had to be looked after because there's so much car traffic and so much danger on the streets. So I went home and did my therapies in Michigan, in my hometown. So I came back, I want to say that following spring. I came back to coach. Didn't know if I'd ever be able to play again. Doctor never really said yes or no to my playing, which is understandable. Plus, doctors don't understand the difference between beer league and the NHL. So, yeah, that's my fondest hockey memory was, one of the most traumatic, terrible things in my life. And my hockey buddies were there for it. And they supported me when I came back playing and coaching. So there you go. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, like, tell everybody about me. Shoot the links to them if you're liking what I'm doing. If you have any great ideas, please reach out to me, because this is all us. This is our world. This is our hockeyverse. So, gonna throw that pass. I gotta head out of here and go coach my kids. So, I'm gonna throw this pass across ice, right onto your pride tape, and dish that thing top shelf, right over the glove, baby. So we will see you in episode 20.